I had a dream tonight of the dead being alive, which has affected my spirits.
Tomorrow, an Everyman special, the true story of Frankenstein. This drama documentary is based around the original classic by Mary Shelley and traces the Frankenstein myth through modern culture using illustrations, interviews, and a wealth of film extracts, including footage from the first Frankenstein film made in 1910 and never seen before on television. At the heart of the program is an original and faithful dramatization of the major scenes from Mary Shelley's novel.
You are my creator. I should be your Adam. But I am the fallen angel, unjustly banished from paradise.
The fires of hell are too mild a vengeance for your crimes.
The True Story of Frankenstein, an Everyman special, is tomorrow at 10:25 on BBC1.
In 20 minutes, Saturday night at the movies, and a tense political thriller starring Mel Gibson and Sigourney Weaver, with Linda Hunt, who won an Academy Award for her performance in The Year of Living Dangerously. First on BBC1, we have the news and sport with Jan Leeming and Mark Austin. It's just after 4 minutes to 9.
The Queen's farewell to the children of China. An Ulster man buries his wife and son murdered by terrorists. England's hockey players reach the World Cup final. And the boy who saved baby Sebastian's life. The royal tour of China has ended with a spectacular send-off. In her farewell message to President Li Xianyan, the Queen said the visit had been exhilarating, setting the seal on the warm friendship between Britain and China. President Li said it would have a far-reaching impact on Sino-British relations. And the Queen's press secretary, Michael Shea, said the visit had been an enormous success. He dismissed Prince Philip's controversial remarks as a small hiccup. The Queen spent her last day in the southern city of Guangzhou, or Canton, before boarding the royal yacht for Hong Kong. Brian Barron reports.
There was a familiar lady at Guangzhou Airport on top of a new Rolls-Royce bought for the Queen's brief visit by a Chinese millionaire. All those 8s on the number plate mean good luck. On this farewell day, the Queen was wearing a blue and white floral outfit and a summer hat. Though a typhoon isn't far from the South China coast, and it's bringing the only bad weather of this entire royal tour. Because Guangzhou is only 100 miles from Hong Kong, this is the one city in China that's heavily Western influenced. Big crowds turned out for the Queen. The finale was yet another expertly staged children's festival. Team spirit, rather than individuality, is the central theme of such places. These children are nominated by their own schools to come here for music and dancing lessons. And the welcome to the Children's Palace ended with a bang. It was a fearful earful, but there was more to come. The historical facts about this little battle were as hazy as the smoke enveloping the Queen, but British gunboat diplomacy in the Opium Wars is still remembered. With the battle over, the Queen was allowed a few minutes of tranquility. In the art class, the teacher presented her with a portrait in oils he'd done from a photograph. How nice to get another present, said the Queen. Then the last act, inside the Children's Theatre. There was a hint of Nashville in the air, but this was southern China, 1986. Everyone deservedly took a bow, the first of a series of graceful farewells tonight to the person they've been calling all week the English female king. And waiting at the Pearl River to take her away was the Royal Yacht Britannia. It has become a ritual that the Queen appears on deck when a state visit ends to hear the Royal Marines Band beat the retreat. It took over 2 years to fix this state visit, and it's only taken place because of the Hong Kong deal under which the British colony is handed back to Chinese control in 1997. The visit has gone well, apart from the Duke of Edinburgh's remarks about slit eyes. The Chinese have chosen to ignore them. Just before the Britannia sailed tonight, there was the spectacular dragon dance on the quayside. A gesture from one old imperial power to another. The next port of call is Hong Kong itself. There, the royal party will find a community understandably nervous about being handed over to communist control, whatever the assurances from the veteran revolutionaries the Queen met in Peking.
There'll be a special programme on the Queen's tour, 6 days in China, on BBC1 tomorrow at 5:15. A man has been shot dead in a pub in Belfast this evening. The shooting happened at around 5:30 in the Ormeau Road area of South Belfast. Police are still questioning people at the scene. An eyewitness said a man wearing a helmet burst into the bar and fired a number of shots. It's not yet clear who was behind the killing. Earlier in the day, a leading churchman had called for an end to sectarian killings at the funerals of 2 people murdered this week. A 76-year-old Catholic woman and her son were shot at their farmhouse near Ballynahinch. 4 men are now being questioned about crimes in the area, and it's understood one of them is a member of the Ulster Defence Regiment.
Kathleen Mullen was murdered alongside her son Terry, and this morning they were buried together. The desolate widower, Tommy, was helped to his pew by the parish priest. He escaped the killers because he was in a back room of the isolated farmhouse. The mixed community of Ballynahinch has experienced recently 3 murders and an outburst of sectarian intimidation which has forced both Catholic and Protestant families from their homes.
The present horrible wave of sectarian destruction and death can only result in an ever-increasing level of fear, intimidation, and instability in both communities.
Benumbed with grief and anguish, Tommy Mullen helped carry his wife's coffin to the cemetery. The bishop insisted there should be no bitter thoughts of retaliation because of what he termed the senseless revenge murders of Kathleen Mullen and her son Terry, 2 innocent people.
Israeli gunboats have been in action off southern Lebanon in an exchange of fire with Shiite militiamen. 3 gunboats had moved inshore near Tyre as part of an increase in Israeli military activity after one of their planes was shot down near Sidon. In Damascus, a spokesman for Amal suggested that a captured Israeli airman could be exchanged for Lebanese and Palestinians held in Israeli prison camps. He wouldn't confirm that his militia were holding the navigator from the Phantom jet, which was shot down. Soviet television has shown pictures of troops arriving home after their withdrawal from Afghanistan. People in towns close to the border lined the roads to greet them. They were offered bread and salt, a traditional Soviet way of welcoming guests. The partial withdrawal of 8,000 troops was promised by the Soviet leadership 3 months ago. Another 5 regiments are expected to leave Afghanistan before the end of the month. Police investigating the murder of 2 young girls in Brighton want to question a man called Dave, who they think could be a vital witness. He phoned them on Thursday night after watching the BBC Crime Watch programme, saying he'd seen 2 youths in the park where Nicola Fellows and Karen Hadaway were found dead. He arranged to meet a detective yesterday but failed to turn up.
Everyone living on the Moulsecoombe estate has been interviewed. Now they'll be questioned again. The police are doubling their capacity to store information by linking up with the police national computer at Hendon. Their strongest lead remains the sighting of 2 youths running from Wild Park the night the girls were molested and then strangled. This week's reconstruction may have put the police in touch with a key witness, a telephone caller to the Crime Watch programme who said his name was Dave.
He told the person who received the call that on the 9th of October, that is the night that the young girls went missing, he was in the Wild Park area and he saw 2 youths in the entrance. We feel that this man can give us vital information, and we are asking him if he'd come forward.
Detectives stress any help the man can give them in the murder hunt will be treated in the strictest confidence.
The weekend calm of the City of London was shattered today when the stock exchange opened for its first ever Saturday trading. But no money changed hands. It was a trial run for the city's so-called Big Bang on Monday week. That's the day when computerised dealing starts and many old restrictions are abolished.
It's hardly the way stockbrokers typically dress, but then this was hardly a typical day in the city. Parking spaces normally empty on a Saturday were crammed full from first light with the sort of cars stockbrokers drive. And the traffic wardens had a field day. In the stock exchange, they were getting used to the electronic screens which now surround the traders' positions, knowing that face-to-face dealing on the trading floor will gradually be replaced by computerised dealing between offices. 1 or 2 city wine bars had opened specially for the occasion, only to find that few had time to enjoy lunch. For most, it was a snatched sandwich and on with the work. The first Saturday that many of them had worked in years. It was pure play acting, but with millions at stake. The one chance to test the new electronic system of screen dealing before it comes in next Monday week. It was a realistic test, some taking the role of big investors buying and selling, putting those at the other end of the office through their paces. Here at Messels, now owned by American Express, anything went clothing-wise. At Barclays de Zoet Wed, British through and through, they insisted that a dress rehearsal meant just that. BZW head, Lord Camoys, was pleased with the results.
It's gone very well. It's been very good. I think actually one would have been frightfully worried if one hadn't found any problems. One would have felt more uneasy.
Some fared less well, major problems with new installations keeping 2 or 3 firms off the screen all day. But on the whole, the city's £20 million investment in new technology came through the test more or less intact.
And now, with news of Manchester United's continued recovery and the progress of England's hockey players, here's Mark Austin.
2 goals by Paul Barber put England into the World Hockey Cup final after they'd been seconds from defeat in the semi-final against West Germany. They'll now meet Australia in tomorrow's final.
England's players were welcomed like stars. This World Cup has put hockey and Willesden on the sporting map. Never before has England reached the semi-finals, and today another packed crowd saw England take the lead through Sean Curley. But then came intense German pressure, and after 8 penalty corners, they finally found the equaliser. England seemed to tire, and West Germany started to dominate. Almost inevitably, they went ahead midway through the second half. The celebrations were extravagant and also premature. For with just 1 minute to go, Paul Barber thumped home the equaliser for England. In extra time, a scramble in England's goalmouth led to a dramatic clearance by captain Richard Dodds. Dodds was the inspiration behind England, and in the second half of extra time, Barber cracked in the winner. The crowd roared away the closing seconds, which weren't without excitement. Another escape for England at the death. But victory was theirs, and a place in tomorrow's World Cup final.
Brian Clough's son Nigel put Nottingham Forest back on top of Division 1 today. His goal was enough to beat Queen's Park Rangers at the City Ground. Paul Goddard scored a late equaliser for West Ham at Norwich, this morning's leaders, who now dropped to second place. Ian Rush scored 2 for Liverpool, including the 200th goal of his career as they beat Oxford 4-0. And there was also a hat-trick for Mark Falco as Watford beat Aston Villa 4-2. His former side Spurs slipped back to 4th in the table as they were held to a 1-1 draw at home to Sheffield Wednesday. Manchester United's manager Ron Atkinson must be sleeping more easily these days. After a disastrous start to the season, his side are moving back up the table. Today their revival continued as they took on Luton at Old Trafford.
Luton certainly weren't in a defensive frame of mind, and sometimes it showed. Gordon Strachan's angled pass into the penalty area was spurned by Steve Foster, who mustn't have noticed the progress of Norman Whiteside. And there was worse to come when Ashley Grimes blundered the ball into the path of Peter Davenport. An easy goal for Frank Stapleton. Luton, though, created as many chances as United. Mike Newell, in particular, kept his balance on a sodden, slippery pitch to give Brian Steen the chance to alarm Chris Turner in the United goal. The Manchester rain fell in torrents, though surely providing only the weakest excuse for Gordon Strachan's dreadful inaccuracy at the start of the second half. Luton's best opportunity resulted from Paul McGrath's challenge on Mark Steen. A penalty, the referee decided, but Mark's brother Brian wasn't up to it. And with it went Luton's last chance of justice. Manchester United 1, Luton Town 0.
In Scotland, Alan McAnally scored twice for Celtic in a 3-1 victory over Motherwell that keeps them on top of the Fine Fair League. Eamon Bannon clinched a 2-0 win for second-place Dundee United over Clydebank. A 5-1 victory by Rangers at Falkirk means they stay third. Hearts beat Hamilton in a match where 2 men were sent off and 6 booked. Jockey Richard Fox had his 9th win of the season on Orange Hill in the Totes Zarowich at Newmarket. A strong run in the final furlong held off challenges from Marlion and Misrule. Peter Bromley, the commentator.
And here comes Path Sister with a late run, but the leader now is Orange Hill in Dick Bob McCreary's colours. Over on the far side, Marlion running on. Misrule close behind the leaders as they run for the last furlong. Orange Hill from Marlion, accuracy, and here comes Misrule with a great late run. But Orange Hill wins the Cesarewitch, a photograph between Marlion and Misrule for second and third.
So Orange Hill first at 20-1 from Marlion, with the 11-2 favourite Misrule third. The Cheltenham Gold Cup, which was won in March by the Irish horse Dawn Run, is missing, apparently stolen in the Republic of Ireland. The 10-inch high gold trophy is valued at £5,000. The owner of Dawn Run, Mrs. Charmian Hill, who's 70 and lives in County Waterford, said she noticed it was missing this morning. She had last seen it 2 weeks ago.
Police in Aberdeen are appealing for the mother of an abandoned baby boy to come forward. The newborn baby, who was found last night by a 12-year-old boy, is being looked after in a maternity hospital.
Little Sebastian, who's in an incubator in case of infection, had a visitor this afternoon, the 12-year-old who saved his life and after whom he's been named. Doctors say he's a normal, full-term baby weighing around 8 pounds, but he was blue with cold when Sebastian Rochford heard his cries from a deserted car park last night.
I thought it was a dog and somebody shot in the garage, and then I didn't see anything, so I was just about to go away. And I had to look around some pillars, and there was just this baby lying in some cloth. So, and because I could just see its head and its 2 little hands.
Although Sebastian's now in safe hands, doctors say his mother should contact them urgently in case she needs medical attention.
And that's the news and sport tonight. From Mark and me, good night.
Tomorrow I'll be talking to Richard Pearl, one of President Reagan's most influential arms control specialists. If America gets the deal they want in Europe and intermediate missiles are removed, will we be more or less vulnerable to Soviet attack? I'll also be talking to the man the Prime Minister says brings her not problems but solutions. But does Lord Young, with his schemes for the jobless, have a solution for unemployment? Join me for This Week Next Week, tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Good evening to you. We are certainly going to notice a real difference tomorrow. This frontal system's the forerunner of much colder weather, and it's introducing these west to northwesterly winds, and they're going to be not only strong, but they'll bring along a fair number of showers as well. In fact, it all reveals itself on the satellite picture. A great load of cloud across the country at the moment, bringing outbreaks of rain. Much clearer, showery weather following along behind. Another lump of cloud behind my head here. That's some rain, I think, for southern parts for tomorrow night and into Monday. Now, there is some rain around in central and eastern areas at the moment. In the west, it's clearing to showery weather, and I think by the early hours, this clearer weather will have got to all parts of the country, but some of the showers in the west fairly heavy, and a windy night and quite a cold one as well. Tomorrow, central and eastern districts starting off dry, bright and sunny, but there will be a fair number of showers around in the west, even from the word go, and during the course of the day, you'll have these showers filtering across to all parts of the country. Some of the showers turning out to be quite heavy too, especially in the northern half, where there'll be sort of a right mixture, everything just about including the kitchen sink. Rain, hail and thunder and some sleet and snow as well, but that I think will be up there on the hills. And a much colder day everywhere, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, is only around about the 50 degrees Fahrenheit mark, and pretty windy as well. That's it. Good night to you.
Sunday evening entertainment on BBC1 at 7:15. 20 years of the two Ronnies.
Yes, I know the kind of girl, yeah. Where did you take her? Somewhere exotic? Sainsbury's.
In Howard's Way at 8 o'clock, a career move for a younger family member.
Dad, I want a job.
In the yard? Reckon you've got a future, do you?
Should be a nice little earner.
At 9:05 after the news, the Sunday premiere, Good as Gold, where a talented young swimmer finds that sacrifices have to be made to reach the top.
Gonna have to work. If I tell you to do something, you do it.
At 10:25, an Everyman special, the true story of Frankenstein, looks at the myths and realities behind Mary Shelley's novel.
You accuse me of murder, yet you would destroy your own creation. How dare you sport with life?
And with highlights of the final between England and Australia in the World Cup Hockey Championship at 11:30 and International Snooker at 11:55. That's Sunday evening viewing on BBC1.
Our programme of International Snooker at 11 o'clock this evening has been extended to include highlights of that exciting World Cup hockey semi-final between England and West Germany. Snooker and hockey in just under 2 hours. Following Saturday night at the movies, and another in the series of feature films new to television. Two of the 80s most popular stars lead the cast in this tense and atmospheric thriller. The Year of Living Dangerously.
In tomorrow's Great American Picture Show on BBC2, Diane Keaton plays a teacher taking unorthodox measures to exorcise her past by looking for Mr. Goodbar.
I never did understand what terrible thing I did, you know, to make God so angry.
Poor little baby.
No. I hate people being sorry.
I was only trying to comfort you.
I'd rather be seduced than comforted.
Looking for me? Tony Lopanto.
I'm a teacher.
School?
First grade.
I don't believe it.
Can I buy you a drink? Not even one foot left?
Confidentially, with me, one's too many, and a million's not enough.
I got the same problem with men.
Diane Keaton and Richard Gere star in Looking for Mr. Goodbar tomorrow at 10:25 on BBC2.
In its newly opened season of films by Federico Fellini, BBC2 in half an hour will present his first, which introduced one of the major motifs of his work, the tawdry world of the music hall. Lights of Variety at 11:30 on 2. Here on 1 in a specially extended programme, International Snooker and World Cup Hockey.